Dear friends, our Gospel reading is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 13, verse 33 to 37. Jesus said to his disciples, "Be on your guard. Stay awake, because you never know when the time will come. It is like a man traveling abroad. He has gone from home and left his servants in charge, each with his own task. And he has told the doorkeeper to stay awake. So stay awake, because you do not know when the master of the house is coming. Evening, midnight, cockcrow, dawn. If he comes unexpectedly, he must not find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to all, stay awake." The Gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Dear friends, just a short reflection, taking the COVID era or uncertain times as the theme. Israel, as we just, which is reflected in that hymn, Emmanuel, was named by a theologian as a landscape of Christ. Because of the history of Israel, they were a non-nation, just a single person, Abraham, that became a nation, and they were either fleeing, or they were captured, or deported, attacked, colonized, right up to the time of Jesus. And so this phrase, a landscape of Christ, depicts well the history of Israel. And even today, I've never been there, but we talk about the Wailing Wall, where Jews go and wail and shed their cries, and crying itself is a way of communication, it's a way of resistance, and during that time they developed these two categories that give them hope in times of suffering, and almost like continual suffering, endless, and that is the category of time, that the apocalyptic time, that time has an end of time, as we listen into the Gospel of Mark. And throughout this Advent season, and even leading up to the Advent season, the readings are all about this end of time. Like today, stay awake, because there is a time. The landlord is not gone forever and just be gone forever and ever, but that he will come back. And because of that, there is an end of time, and that we have to prepare for that time. The other category that the Jews used, and that is the category of memory, that they should not forget Zion. So you remember the Psalm 137 that we used in our reflection in Auckland last year, by the rivers of Babylon. That I should not forget you, Zion. So these two categories are good categories, theological categories in this suffering time, or the apocalyptic time, and that of memory. Today I just want to reflect on apocalyptic time. And a theologian that used this apocalyptic time is Johann Baptist Metz, who did his theology during a very, very dark time in world history, and during the Holocaust, and where 16 million people died. I don't know how many million people COVID has claimed, but that was one of those dark, uncertain times in the world history, the Holocaust. And Johann Baptist Metz, in his theology, in his writing, he said, it's time now that we recover this Jewish sense of time, that there is an end to time. because at that time people were thinking that things will just keep on going. Johann Metz talks about evolutionary time. That time just will keep on going. Like now we talk about the new norm, that whatever it is, I don't know, but things that will just keep on going. But the Jews, because of the suffering and the uncertain times that they faced, they developed this end of time. What do they mean by that? It's not just a blank, dark end of time, but the time of the fullness of the coming of God. So it's a time when God will, as St. Paul says, reconcile everything and bring everything back. It's really the time of the coming of the kingdom of God and the fullness of God's kingdom and the life that He will bring to us. And going into the Advent season, this theme, again, in our liturgy resonates, this second coming, the end of time. And so, why is this important? It's important because it guides our action, our practice, or our Christian practice. That if we know that the owner of the house, the landlord, is coming tonight, we will prepare well. I remember as a small kid, in the weekends, we stayed with our auntie, and in the weekend she'll go and sell in the market. Oh, from Friday, Saturday, we are playing around like wild boys. But we know the bus will come at night on Saturday, so we prepare everything. Put the pillows right, the bed sheet, sweep the house properly, because we know our aunt, and our aunt is a little bit of a hard customer. So we don't want that to be unprepared, and this is what an end of time does to us, the apocalyptic time. It makes us act rightly, and the prophet Micah, to walk rightly, to act justly. And knowing this, it's a good category to reflect on in these uncertain times that we don't know what's going to happen. But the Jewish sense of time makes us, interrupts us, or wakes us from our almost like sleep, or things will go on. The bubble up will come again, and things will come back to normal. But the Jews have this sense of time. There is an end of time. And so, how do we prepare for this uncertain time and the end of time? Is to prepare for the coming of God's kingdom. That means it's not only about my salvation, my own personal salvation, and going into heaven at the end of that time, but it's the salvation of everyone, especially those who are victims of injustice. We now talk about the victims of climate change, the victims of violence, and especially domestic violence, which is heavy now in Fiji and in the Pacific. We think about the salvation of the whole of creation as we prepare for that end of time. That Advent awakens us and interrupts us to awaken to that end of time.